muted, so let me start that one again. Good afternoon. You know what? I did this in the last stream too. Apparently my head isn't quite working properly yet. Never mind, we'll get there. Anyway, it's been a few weeks since I've done this. I have basically just been too ill, unfortunately. My long COVID and CFS has been kicking me a little bit more than I would like it to. Last week I was on vacation, spectacular up in the Drenthe countryside, near the Cathedral of Speed, but there was no races on, so I couldn't go and visit it. But sitting in a hot tub, in a garden, relaxing, it was just absolutely awesome. And now I'm back, and it's awesome to be here. And this week, I'm not alone. I have a guest with me who I will get onto the stream now. And that guest is Sander. Hello, Sander. How are you doing?
Hi, thank you. I'm really, really good. I'm really, really warm. But yeah, for the rest, I'm doing completely fine. Thank you.
Yes, so it's. Would you like to introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. So I'm Sander ten Brinke. I live in the Netherlands. I'm 28 years old. I do software development, well, as a hobby, but also as work. I do a lot of .NET. I do a lot of Azure. I do everything except for CSS, basically, but .NET and Azure are my strengths. I'm also a Microsoft MVP, so I really like blogging, speaking, podcasting, apparently doing live streams now. So yeah, that's basically me, I guess. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Welcome to the world of live streaming. It's absolutely awesome. When everything goes wrong, you just have to wing it and hope for the best. But that's just adds to the fun of it. And on the bright side, something that I think it was Layla Porter said to me once, if you do live streams, your demos get better on stage because you get used to things going wrong and having to fix them on the fly.
That makes a lot of sense, yeah.
So yeah, thank you, Layla, for that advice. That's absolutely true. So Sander's going to be joining me today, and I thank him for joining me in this ridiculous heat.
It is crazy.
I don't know what it's like where you are. Where I am, it's not actually so hot right now. It's just the residual heat in the house that's like.
Currently, for me, it's 30 degrees in this room right now, so it's quite warm. Yeah. Outside, I think it's 22 degrees outside, so yeah, I got the window open. Let me know if there's any noise, by the way, because I just opened the window for a bit less warmth. But if it's loud, let me know and I'll close it.
Yeah, I'll let you know. And if anybody in the chat can hear anything, I've also got an air conditioner blowing away next to me to try and get this room down from the 30 degrees it was when I walked in. So hopefully the microphone's doing its job. If not, let me know and I'll cook for a bit while streaming. Now, Sander's going to join me today for something that was introduced, I believe, last year in preview.
Something like that, yeah. It's been worked on for a while.
Yeah, and it's something that I've been wanting to play with for a long time, but unfortunately, I just couldn't do it with my health. And that is the Data API Builder in Azure, which, from I haven't had a chance to look into it enough yet, point of view is basically just a way to expose your databases with authentication and authorization without actually having to build an API yourself. I think that's probably a way simplified version of it. So, Sander, maybe you can correct me.
So in the core, you're exactly right. So Data API Builder, what it allows you to do is have a database somewhere in the cloud or on-prem, it doesn't matter. And you basically point Data API Builder to it. So like this is your database, and please expose tables, views, stored procedures, or even NoSQL databases as APIs with either REST or GraphQL. And exactly one of the things you pointed out, which I think is really nice, is you immediately pointed out authentication and authorization, because that's, of course, really important. And I think that's a thing where DAB really shines. But yeah, in the essence, you don't have to build those APIs anymore that are just doing CRUD kind of things. You just tell Data API Builder to generate the API for you.
And then it does everything for you.
Yeah.
We do have a link in the description on the YouTube stream, so not on the Twitch stream, unfortunately. And in there, you will find a link to all sorts of different resources and the setup URL to put a load of resources. And I dropped the link into that Microsoft video.
I can't I can't. Your sound is not. Your microphone is doing a bit weird.
Oh, that's interesting. Is that any better, or is that still weird?
That's a lot better. I can hear like a tiny bit of background noise now, but you sound a lot clearer. So it's good. This is better.
Okay, fine. It is a problem with having a static microphone. I move when I talk.
Yeah.
And it's very directional. So if I go away from where I should be, you really notice it on the sound. I should really use my headset mic for this, but I've not got that set up in my new setup yet. We'll get there. But we have a load of resources in the YouTube description for this. So take a look at that when we're done, and you can go deeper into it yourselves. And what we're going to be doing today, Sander's got some awesome demos that he's going to be walking through for us. And after we've seen how to use this in general, we're going to take my... it's supposed to be my upcoming engagements, but I'm kind of out of date there. So it's actually everything I had until 2023. I will be updating it, I promise. We're going to take that out of what I started using it, which was just literally a static file because I couldn't be bothered to do it properly. Which is, a note to everybody, a temporary solution is never, ever, ever a temporary solution. Because once it works, that's it, it works. You're not going to go back and change it. There's always something more important. We're going to have a look at the API that I built for it in order to read it from a Cosmos DB. And then we're going to go one step further than that, and Sander's going to show me how to get this into my site using the data API builder to actually get rid of that function that I'm currently using and just make it a lot more streamlined and a lot less code to maintain.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So we're going to see how far we come with that. That's a plan for today. And I suppose, without further ado, if you want to share your screen, Sander,
yes,
get your screen on picture.
Awesome. Let me have a look. Share screen. Yes, and I'm just going to share screen number 2 over here. There we go.
Okay, let's get that on. Hey, wonderful. Look at that. We can see it.
Awesome. So in the last few months, I've given a lot of talks at conferences about Data API Builder, so I'm just going to reuse a little bit of that content. So basically what I want to do is, before I talk about what Data API Builder is, because it's quite easy to understand, I want the audience to know why you would want to use something like this, right? You've already kind of pointed it out, but basically to build just a simple API, in your case, you're building a function that is basically a wrapper around a database. You have your client, which is your website, your API, which is this function, and your database that's just returning data. It's not all that complex. It's just a simple data API, right? So building a function like that isn't a lot of work, but it still needs a lot of steps to start writing and maintaining a little bit of custom code. Even an Azure function with 2 lines is a lot of work. Right, we need to create this repository, set up the folder structure, choose your framework or language. In this case, I believe it's an Azure function in C#.
Yep, correct.
Correct. Great. We need to set up the database in migrations. You need to write those endpoints to interact with the database, set up CI/CD, deploy, and then maybe the things that most developers forget nowadays is when you write any line of code, you need to manage it and keep it updated. Right? We need to update that .NET SDK. We need to get the security updates. We need to get the package updates, and that's just work that's gonna never go away. And that's basically where I'm going to end with the why. All of this work for just a database wrapper, bit of code that wraps around your database and makes the data useful in the client. So with that being said, just quickly, Data API Builder, like we already talked about, it exposes your database entities via either REST or GraphQL. And it's one important thing that I want to say here. It's a tool. So it's not a framework. It's not a library. It's basically like an executable that runs the code. So it generates endpoints at runtime for you, but it doesn't output any code. So it's not something that you build on top of or can currently write custom code on top of. It is just a tool that exposes endpoints. And it's open source. It's really, really cool. You can find it on the GitHub in Azure. There's no vendor lock-in. Unlike other tools like Firebase, Data API Builder is just open source, and you can use it wherever and whenever you want. You can use it on-prem against on-prem databases. You can run it in the cloud in a container against an on-prem database, Or like we're going to see in today's stream, we're going to be using it in the cloud with a cloud database like Cosmos DB. And we already talked about security, but there's loads of features that we're also going to touch upon today. And the databases that are supported, right? So there's SQL, there's Cosmos DB, which is really cool because it's NoSQL, right? So how can Data API Builder that works with SQL databases also support NoSQL? I think it's really, really interesting. Postgres and MySQL. So as a newcomer to all of this, Stacy, do you think this kind of covers the basics for me explaining it and showing a little demo?
Yeah, I think this covers the basics and then showing a demo. That sounds good.
Awesome. Okay, so let me take a look at my Visual Studio Code if I've got everything running. So I've got a little Data API Builder configuration file, which is all you need. So here I have a little configuration file. You can use the DAB CLI. I think we're going to see you interact with it a little bit as well later on. So to get your configuration file, so here I have a data source, which is going to talk to Microsoft SQL Server with my connection string. And there's loads of options we're just going to ignore for now. But the most important thing here is that we have an author table or authors table that we're exposing as the author entity. And we have books, which we're going to expose as books. Just a little demo here. So I called dab start. It will then start up. And feel free to always interrupt and ask some questions, by the way, if there's any questions in the audience. But what we're going to get is here I have a little React application that I've just built. And this is basically a little library demo that's going to get books and authors. And there's no API here. The only thing that is happening is that this is calling Data API Builder, which is running on port 5000. And it's using REST to retrieve the books, and it's using GraphQL to retrieve the authors. And
so you got a nice mix here then.
Exactly. So, for example, what I can show you is I can actually show you the call that it's doing. So when I reload this, you can see that it's actually doing a little call to localhost 5000 API-book. And this is a Data API Builder, and it's returning The Way of Kings, Red Rising, and I've definitely noticed that you're British, Stacey, because you need this book, Pronouncing Azure Correctly, the definitive guide. It's, something like that. And here we can see the books, and finally we can also see that it's doing a GraphQL call. So to get the authors, and to get the name, the birthday, and the image from all of the authors. And all I needed to do is get a config file. We'll get that going later on in the stream. Call dab start. And all of this is just done. And now I can just call this in my client.
Beautifully, automagically.
Beautifully, exactly. So a cool thing that we already kind of touched upon, authentication, authorization, is that I've got a little of that built in here as well. So currently anonymous users can read data. That's why we can see the data. But authenticated users, because currently I'm logged in as an authenticated user, I just did something under the hood, but currently I'm authenticated. And now we could also create and update data. Or, as an administrator, I can delete data. So just to prove how that works, if I was going to try it as an anonymous user to delete this book, you'll see that I get a 403 back from Data API Builder, because I'm not allowed to do this. However, if I log in as an administrator, now you can see that the book was deleted with a 204. And the way this works is because in the Data API Builder configuration file, which is the only thing you need to run DAB, I have a couple of permissions set up. So currently you can see that for the books, the admin role can do anything that they want. Anonymous users can only read, and authenticated users, they can create, update, and read the data. And
does this have to be in any particular order, or because you have the star at the top and then you got the ones below? Is that opinionated, or is this just how you happen to write it?
I think this is how I happen to write it. Yeah, exactly. I think it will just match based on your role and then grab the associated actions. And the way you might think is, so this is pretty cool now, how we set up authorization, but the authentication is also really interesting. So the Data API Builder here in this configuration file provides an authentication object, and here we can set our authentication provider. Now there's tons of options. The one that we might be using today, we'll have to see if we're going to actually have to use it on your website, is Easy Auth, or I believe it's actually called Static Web Apps. And this will use Easy Auth, and I think you're more familiar with that than me.
Yep.
But this will basically use the authentication setup in Static Web Apps and just forward it to Data API Builder. So based on your role, it will match these magical strings down here, like admin. You also have other options, which are not in this autocomplete list, but that's the one I was using, Simulator. And this is really useful for local development. So usually when I see people building APIs, like local authentication and authorization is really annoying, because having to log in locally means that you have to have an identity server running somewhere. Here, we can just use Simulator. And the way my front end works is that basically with every request, it sends like a custom header. Yeah. And that custom header contains the name of the role, and that's how it works. So it's really simple to just get this to work locally. So for example, if I reload this screen, you will see that in my request header for getting the books, you can see an XMS API role anonymous. And this is then kind of how that works.
Okay.
All right. Do you want to see a little bit more demo, or do you want to take over?
Let's see a little bit of the demo. If we can, if we can look a little bit deeper and take a bit of a demo, and then I can take over and show what I have, and we can look at how we're going to change it. Okay,
that sounds good. So a little bit more demo is we're not just getting some API. We're getting loads of things out of the box that usually would take a lot of time yourself. So here, for example, we get this nice swagger, like the Open API document out of the box. It will look at your tables that you've exposed, and then it will say, hey, the endpoints that are currently available are like getting a specific author, putting, patching, deleting, getting a list of all the authors. So we could just go ahead and try this out. Here we can see all of the author information. There's also the book information and all this kind of stuff you just get out of the box as a really nice developer experience. We also get, I'm a really big fan of OpenAPI.
Yeah.
On my website, a bit of a self-plug, I recently wrote a blog post about OpenAPI on my website. But here you get this OpenAPI document, which is nice in case you want, for example, to generate API clients or do some security testing or validation based on this OpenAPI document.
That's really cool.
But maybe the most cool thing is this GraphQL playground. So if you're a fan of GraphQL and you want to kind of test out your queries, you get all of this out of the box just based on localhost 5000 GraphQL. We have the ability to write custom queries. So with GraphQL, which I believe is also what we're going to use with you today, is the client can tell the server exactly what data it wants and in what format. So here I can, for example, say I want all the books, so I want all the book items, but then I also want, I'm only interested right now in the ID, the title, and the image URL. And I can run this, and this will now talk to Data API Builder. This Data API Builder will talk to my local SQL server, and you can see here exactly that it's returned the Way of Kings and Red Rising. So the next thing that I kind of want to talk about related to GraphQL is that it's really interesting that we can have books and authors, but as separate entities, they're not all that useful. Usually when you're loading like the detail page from an author, you probably also want to show the books that they've written. So there needs to be something called relationships. Yeah. And that is also supported. So what you can do is you can do this in multiple ways. You can either have Data API Builder and use the Data API Builder CLI to, for example, say, I want to update my author entity and set a relationship called books to the source is book entity. I believe this is the correct code to write. And this will now update the Data API Builder configuration file and make it understand that there's relationships between these entities. And this will allow GraphQL to understand that when we query for authors, it should also return us a list of book objects because it now knows how these things are related to each other.
Very cool.
So we can do this in the CLI, except I've already done this. So you can either do this in the CLI or the JSON file. So here we can see that the author object has permissions and a relationship object. So you can see that there's a relationship to books with a cardinality of many. This may sound a little bit vague, but what it basically means is that a author can have many books, and the target entity is here. And now when you've configured your application to use relationship, you can, for example, write the following. I want all the authors and all of their items. I want their name, and I also want their books. And from the books, I'm only interested in the items with the title. So this is pretty custom, and of course the API builder isn't running anymore because I canceled it. So all I need to do to get it going again is run dab start. And as you can see, it starts up in milliseconds. And I can run it again, and there it is. Now I have a list of all of the authors and their names, including all of their books and their titles.
Nice. And it's the way that it does the primary and foreign keys here. Is that just based on the names of the fields?
Yes, by default, it is exactly looking. In this case, it was probably because we're configuring the author entity with the books. On the book entity, it is looking for an author ID, and it is able to find that. But you can configure everything to your heart's content. So if you want to use different fields, like, I don't know, if maybe it was called like writer ID, then you can just set that up that way.
Ah, fantastic. It's nice having the option of both of those. Exactly,
yeah. It's really configurable. Other things we might have to look into as well today. I'm not sure if I don't think it's currently yet supported. But there's also things like caching available to you. In case your website gets a lot of traffic, there's caching support. You can configure everything with REST and GraphQL. There's loads of options for cores and authentication and telemetry and logging and everything. There's so much configurable. And just the fact that we have a book or like bookshelf database, and with that we have one little config file, and we've created an entire API in seconds is basically the demo. It's really, really cool, because doing that custom is just so much work, especially with REST and GraphQL.
Yeah, and the fact that you can have both side by side is
really cool.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
I've just got to say, by the way, your keyboard sounds absolutely
thank you
stunning. It's I'm getting into custom keyboards. I just tried to customize my own in my last stream, actually, and it went as well as it can go, but it's not great yet. But the thunk from your keyboard.
Yeah, it's lovely. It's really, really nice. I love it so much. I've also recently just gotten. I needed a custom. I wanted a mechanical keyboard, like a really good one. So I searched for a long while, and I ended up with this one. It's a Newfie Halo 75, just for people that are also like, get this dab stuff out of here. Just show me keyboards. There we go. It's currently all the lights enabled.
Very cool. This isn't a sponsored stream, by the way. This
isn't
just
sponsored. Call me.
It's fine.
Awesome. So, do you have any questions so far about Data API Builder, or anything that you would like to hey, this is interesting, or maybe something you want to point out?
I think so far you've explained it all really nicely.
Thank you.
I suppose one big question would be, what limitations do we have?
Oh, that's that. There are a few limitations. So I'm just going to go back to my slides to answer those questions. So basically, the limitation currently is, for example, this. So what if you want to run custom code? So let's say that we create a new book. Or maybe in your case, we already talked about your engagements, right?
Yeah.
Let's say that when you, for example, add an engagement, and you would also use Data API Builder to add things. We'll see what happens. In case you do this, and you also want to, for example, call some other service to validate that request. For example, you want to call Sessionize to validate that actually happened, right? That you're not adding something that doesn't exist. In this case, you would need to write custom code, and Data API Builder does not currently support custom code. So it is really meant for simple data APIs, for just data, for CRUD kind of things. However, if you want to do something like this, that's currently what's already on screen, what I would recommend is that you can, for example, use API management, or the API, just want to say this explicitly, maybe the AWS equivalent, because this is not limited to Azure. You can run this anywhere. You can, for example, use API management and say that all the calls to create books or create engagements go to an Azure function. And that Azure function then does that validation, and then it inserts it into the database, or it calls DAB itself to do that for you again. And then you just need like 1 or 2 lines of code. But that is one of the limitations right now. Like if I want to extend it, that is not really possible. You have to do that yourself with something like this.
Yeah, so that would be another question that that I have with the authorization. We can say that we have the role-based authorization.
Yeah.
But say you're running in a multi-user environment. Can you ensure that a user only sees things based on their user ID?
Yes, that's a really cool. Yes, you can actually. That's really, really cool that you asked that. That is something that I like to nerd about. That's the next slide. So that's basically a question of authorization, right? Like the authentication is in this case the role, but authorization means that it doesn't mean that every user is allowed, for example, to see everyone's data. Just because you're logged in doesn't mean that you have access to everything, only to your own data. So what you for this can do is you can have item security in Data API Builder, which means that we can write a little policy in an entity. So for a book, when you are admin or maybe authenticated, then we want to extend the queries that are written with where user ID is at user ID, and then it fills that in for you.
Okay.
So you can kind of extend the queries that are done with data from the user's token. Okay.
So, and you can do that in the config file. It's not something that people can write nefarious queries around and...
No, that should not be possible.
Okay.
Exactly. There's also field security. So your question is like, can I only return rows that apply to me? But there could also be the question of, I only want to return the columns that reply to me. For example, I don't know, you have engagements, right? And you also have a column in your database for engagements for people that you didn't like at the event. I don't know, I'm just imagining something in my head here. I don't know, right? Let's say we have something like that. We don't want to show that to Anonymous.
Yeah.
So with field security, we can also prevent certain columns from being returned based on your role. And this is all done in the configuration file.
Cool. So this is something then that I will be using in the future, because right now I write my blog posts on dev.to, and I read them from dev.to and display them on my website, but I do want to bring it into my own database.
Right.
So that would be a case then, if you've got like publish true or false, I can log in as myself and I can see everything. But if an anonymous person comes along, they won't even know that publish field exists. They will only get to see the published ones, and that's it.
That's exactly right. If I were to just, I think my screen is still shared. Let me just have a look.
Yeah, your screen's still shared.
Security Data API Builder. So maybe that's also a good thing to point out. You already talked about, we talked about it, I think, yesterday, that one of the things that you want to showcase is that people that have experience of programming also still need to look stuff up or don't do stuff right the first time. A perfect example of, I don't know, let's look at the docs.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
it's super important out there. I love that you brought that up. It's super important to see 2 experienced developers going through this real time, because I have had so many conversations with junior developers that felt so insecure because they just assume seniors got it right first time, no problem, know everything. And they love the fact that I did I think it was a LinkedIn post where I was fighting a bug for like 3 hours. And it just turned out that I'd missed one tiny thing in a config file, which should have been the first thing I did.
Exactly. Yeah. So here's a really cool example. So for example, for the books, if you have the role free access, then you can do create, update, and delete. You can also read, but you can only read column 1 and column 2, but not column 3.
Oh, cool.
So that is like the field level security.
Yeah.
There should also be the item level security, which is currently not supported for Cosmos DB. Whoops. But that all might come in the future. So here we can see one of those policies. I mentioned the word policy already. So here we have the role consumer, and their action is read, and the policy is that in the database, this is added. And I'm pretty sure this is converted to the right SQL syntax based on your database provider.
Yeah.
So here we can, for example, say that the consumer can read items, but only where the title is sample title, or in your case, like you said, is published equals true.
Yeah.
Or false.
Cool.
Awesome.
That looks pretty perfect what I'm doing, and I think that's also a nice point. Like you say, this isn't available for Cosmos DB yet.
Yeah.
But this is still in development, and if I remember correctly, there's also more limitations on static web apps than there are in the general release, because static web apps DAB is still in preview, I believe.
Yes.
And it's not running on the latest version.
Correct. So
something to be aware of.
Data API Builder went GA in May, if I remember correctly. So that is GA, and there's the next few releases are just going to be a lot of bug fixes and stability. And exactly like you say, like integration into static web apps is still something that is in preview.
Yeah. So it's there, you can use it, but beware, in static web apps, it's in preview. That is always at your own risk. But
exactly. What can go wrong?
What
can go wrong?
Yeah. It's only exposing your data. It's fine.
it's only your data. Like, really, take a risk. Live a little.
Also, I think that is the other questions that I had answered then. It's our limitations, looking at what we can do to access stuff. So I think what I will do now, if you don't mind, is I'm going to grab the screen and show my current solution. Let me just quickly get that set up before I steal the screen. Okay, I've been making some interesting changes, but that will be fine. Let's add my screen there. So I apologize for the burn your retinas out mode, but I've also heard from some people watching it on videos online later can help being in light mode rather than dark mode.
Oh, you should have told me. I would have turned it in light mode.
It's fine. It's nice doing half in dark mode and then going light mode and having people screaming, my eyes.
Exactly. Okay.
And in case he's watching, Jimmy, I'm sorry, I know you hate this bit. And so this is the code for my current website. And what it basically is, it's a little bit about me. It's blog posts, pictures that I like doing, and a list of where I'm speaking. This, full disclosure, this should not be a Blazor site because it's not an application. But I wanted to learn Blazor when I wrote it, which is why it is this. And actually dealing with the problems that you get doing this actually helps me in the future with other stuff. So, for example, I've got to deal with SEO next because, of course, Blazor renders in the browser, so Google hates it because it only sees you can't run this application. It doesn't actually see the content. But that's what I have. And I have this API here, which is an Azure function. And I used to have this Azure function where all I did was I have this engagements, get engagements, and this really is just a static list of objects that are returned to the site. I did this because when I was setting it up, I was in a rush. I didn't have time to set up a database and everything else. And like I said at the start, all things that you do that are temporary are never temporary. They stay because you never have time to fix it.
It's like The other way that I always tell people, which I think is very poetic, is there's nothing as permanent as a temporary solution.
Nice, exactly that. Nothing as permanent as a temporary solution. This has been here since 2022, maybe? No, but 2022. That's the first one in there, so I'm going to guess that's when I set this up.
Yeah,
So, you know.
and I think these temporary solutions are always in those like hobby or personal projects, like my website as well. I have a couple of programming sins in there, and I was like, oh, in my work, I would never do it like this. But in my spare time, it's cowboy time. Like, I don't care.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly that. Unfortunately, I mean, it used to actually be just a JSON list, which I translated on the fly.
Into C#, you mean, or what do you mean?
So it was just a JSON file, and I just read the JSON file, deserialized it, and I actually had to write test because I kept on screwing up the JSON.
So basically what you're saying is you just created a whole new file, like a new file standard. That's pretty hardcore.
Why not? And I did that because I wanted to cheat. So this is what I've had for years. What I want to do is move to being able to get it from a Cosmos DB. Right. So last night, in preparation for this stream, I wrote a very quick Azure function that goes to a Cosmos DB, gets everything, and returns it. Which actually means there's possibly more things on my site than there should be right now, because I'm fairly some of them used to have a do not show on them, and I didn't copy that across. But I could be wrong.
But this is already live.
This is live, yeah.
Let me take a couple of screenshots.
Yeah, take screenshots. You can see what I know that there's at least 2 in there, which I should have done, but I didn't because my long COVID just meant that I had to take like 6-7 months completely off. I couldn't do anything. So there's a couple in there which I really hate the fact that I didn't go to, and I feel so bad for not going to. But yeah, I was supposed to be there. Tekorama BE, please have me back at some point.
Oh, if you're gonna have Stacy, please have me as well. Thanks. We'll go as a package deal.
Absolutely. But you know what? We'll turn this into a talk and do it live.
There we go. That'd be fun.
So self-promotion aside, which is always good. I did this yesterday, but I think it's kind of what Sander was talking about. I have all of this code here, which basically I don't really need. And this is kind of repeated everywhere. So I'm going to have 2 pages on my site eventually. One of them is the conferences I'm speaking at and the talks I'm giving at that conference. And if I just bring up a web browser, I can show you exactly what I mean there. There's stacyclouds.net. And where I'm speaking, this is the other one. Azure functions take time to fire up.
Right, that's a really good point, actually. That's a really good point. Yeah, that is definitely a problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's you saw how long that took to load, but if I refresh this page...
It's even slower.
It's even slower. Okay, that's not supposed to happen. The function, there we go. Once a function is up and running and it's happy, it's relatively quick. But no, that first time, that cold start is an issue. But I have like here, like these two. These 2 shouldn't be there because I didn't go. But the conferences, the talks I'm doing at the conferences, and then I want another page, which will just be all of the talks that I do. So if I go to my API/talks, let's pretty print this. So this is all of the different talks that I kind of have.
Right, that's a lot of talks, actually. My gosh.
I don't give all of them anymore, and I think some of them are possibly duplicated because I changed the titles ever so slightly. But this is the talks that I have available, and I want this as a different page on my site. And I know that I can use a sessionized API to get all this, but I also like I'd rather use that to get the data into my site and I control everything, if you know what I mean.
I fully, because like I have the exact same thing. Like on my website, when I start my website, I have like on the bottom I have like blog post and speaking, and the speaking is just currently go to the speaking page because that's where I just have like an embed from Sessionize.
Yeah.
But I do have nightmares about it because at some point Sessionize is just gonna go away, or my data is gonna be gone,
Yep.
and then I'll lose all of the data. So I currently also have it planned to do something like this for me. So
Yep.
I just own my own data, and it feels it's a bit of pride, right? Like entering a new thing that you've attended. That's really nice.
Yep. I tell you what, I smile. This is such a stupid little simple thing that I did last night, but it still felt so good getting it live. And I've decided the day that I stop feeling that sense of achievement with coding is the day I need to find another industry.
Right. This is just so nice, like especially for these kind of things. And that's also the cool thing about side projects, for me at least. Like the code that you write for work is fine, but sometimes it's a little dull, or you do it because you're paid to do it, and I'm happy to do it, but it's not cool. And then even like writing like a little 1+1 for my own website makes me feel like a god, like a wizard. That's really nice for side projects.
It's like, this is a complete tangent, but I want to show it. My son was is it counter? Nope. Let me just find the page, because my son was trying to do a couple of things, and it's like, you know what, I can help you there in like half a second, so I'm going to. So number one is this subtraction page.
That's cute. You have that published on the website.
Yeah. So
that's super adorable.
He had something from school, and it told him he had the answer wrong when he didn't have the answer wrong, because the developers that developed the site didn't cleanse their input correctly.
I thought you were going to talk about floating points, but okay.
Floating points are another fun one. But what it was, I think it was like 10... Right, it was a more difficult sum than that because it was in this level, but it was like something like 10 minus 9 is 1. Right. No, because it was dealing with 2 digits, he had to do 0, 1 in order to get it. And it actually marked him down, and it went into his schoolwork that he got this sum 1 because he didn't put a 0 in front of it.
That is so stupid.
And that infuriated me to the point that within an hour, this was live on my site, and I said, go practice here. Do what you want. It's random sums, and it just keeps track of what you're doing. So let's just... Okay, it's going to be wrong, but it gives you this, and you can try again, and it just keeps track of what you're doing and gives you a score out of 10, depending on how many you do, just so that he had something to try.
I know what I'm going to do tonight. Thank you.
You're welcome. So
I have some plans. I'm going to practice my math tonight.
I had that one for him yesterday, and then I did this one because he was trying to count his Pokemon cards. So I gave him this one just where, okay, he can just count the cards as he goes through, remove
That's super cute.
And just refresh it, get rid of it when you need to. And aside from the fact there's no way to get it without refreshing the page because I've not got a link to it anywhere, it will remember your counter because it's stored in your session. Yeah.
Ah, that's so nice. Yeah, that's so cute.
So it won't remember it between visits, but it will remember it as long as you're on the site, even if you switch page.
Right. But what's your, so if we're already on a tangent, why did you choose session storage instead of local storage?
It's not session storage yet. All I'm doing is actually just stored in memory.
Just in JavaScript itself. Gotcha.
In Blazor.
Okay. Sorry. I should to a Blazor person, I should never even say the words JavaScript. I'm so sorry.
So it's just, I just have this class that just holds it, and then I just inject this class into my saved counter page so that it's always there. It's just the same way that I cache all of my blog posts and everything else. So you only have to do the call once per visit to the site. But
right.
But like you say, it's just when you're doing stuff for work, you're doing stuff for work. I enjoy it. I'm lucky in that I enjoy my job, but it's still my job. And this is just the stuff that I just want to do.
No, I fully agree. So to continue on to the tangent, one thing that I'll always be proud of is that my grandpa, he always used his digital camera and then put the micro SD card in the computer and everything, and that just became more cumbersome. So he kind of wanted to switch to, he had a mobile phone, he had a Google Pixel. So when he took pictures, he had them on Google Photos, and he could go to photos.google.com and he saw his pictures, and he was like, "What? They're here, but they're also there." Like, that was really cute, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But then I wrote him a little guide, like how you have to download those pictures and then like unzip it. And there's like, what the heck is unzipping to like an 80-year-old, right? And
Yeah.
then you have to like move them to the pictures folder. And so I wrote him a little program that's also on my GitHub if you have any grandpas with the same issue. And he's still happy with that. Like every couple times he uses it, he's so glad to have that custom built bit of software just for him, so he can organize his pictures. And it's just so nice.
Isn't it just awesome the stuff you can do with this?
Right? Like that makes you really feel like the wizard again. Like that the first time you were in college, or the first time you like entered 5 in the input field and it rendered 5 images of cats.
Yep.
Stuff like that.
Oh, that kind of stuff. It's all fantastic. To do this last night, like I say, I have pretty much all the same kind of stuff here. It's very similar to the conferences. And more than that, the stuff that you need in the background to get the Cosmos client to work properly. So I ended up creating a base class so that I don't have to repeat that all the time.
Right.
And it's just all of this stuff that we can get rid of.
That's everything, kind of, basically, because it's like 100 lines of code.
Yeah. It's 100 lines of code, and as a PHP developer said to me once, if you ever want to see how complex a solution can be, ask a .NET developer.
Boo!
At first, I was insulted, but I kind of like looked back on my career and thought, yeah, maybe you're right. The amount of complex solutions I've seen that don't need it, it's...
But you're trying to tell me that you didn't write that counter application in a microservice using aka.net and like semantic kernel for AI suggestions. Like, what are you doing? Are you even a real developer?
Exactly.
No, I completely agree. I think I saw that like on David Fowler's Twitter as well. Like if you just look at some other like Go and Python and stuff like that, and they just have their solutions done, and then a .NET developer's like, I need to add an interface to everything.
Yeah.
And I need to do this and this and this, and I need to at least have like my controller service, repo, EF core thing. Everything needs to be. It's like we're just adding a single endpoint. Like really?
Exactly that. So it's so no, getting rid of this is going to be awesome, and you know, to all of the .NET developers that have basically just insulted, I am a .NET developer too.
I am a .NET developer too. It's all good.
Yep. It's I was insulted, but I just have to look back on some of the things I've seen in my career, and it's like, yes, some .NET developers really can go too far. They can be patterned to death.
Exactly.
So this is basically what I want to replace, and then if I show my database, I'm just going to take my screen off for 2 seconds because I want to make sure that I'm not on a page that I don't want to expose to the public.
Oh God.
So let's click this. Where are we? Let's go back into the portal. Always a fun when you're doing something live and it's like, oh, maybe that key shouldn't have been put out there.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Let's not forget to put like refresh all your credentials on your to-do list after the stream.
I absolutely finish the screen, refresh the credentials, even if I think I'm doing well. So that looks like it should be reasonably safe, says she, hopefully. So this is my Cosmos DB. Basically, these are my conferences.
Right.
Where I have name, location, the year of the conference, start and end date, URL of the conference, and then whatever talks I'm doing.
Right.
A lot of these things are empty just because they're going to be filled in the future, and I wanted to add a little bit of Yagni in there based on what we were just talking about complicating everything. Let's just throw the Yagni in there. So the talks that I'm doing, and we can, I've just got all of the different ones in there. So for the PHP conference UK I did a couple of years ago.
That's where you got insulted.
No, that was actually PHP Amsterdam that I got insulted.
Oh, no, it's just...
PHP UK was
Those
actually not
developers are
too
rough.
bad.
They're just insulting us. How dare they?
I'm a .NET developer. I'm used to it.
With their MySQL's real string to execute queries. Right. Sorry. It still hurts.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
And then I have my talks here, and like I say, these are just these aren't linked to a conference. These are just all the ones that I have. And the reason why I'm using Cosmos DB here is because I don't want this normalized.
Right. Yeah, we talked about that already.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
So basically, I have my talks in here, and it might be that in the future I change one of my talks, but I don't want all of the existing conferences that are linked to that talk to also change.
Exactly.
Or even I have talks at a conference and I might tailor a talk for a specific conference, and this might not match the talk that it comes from. I might edit a few fields and just make it that little bit different. So that's why I'm using Cosmos DB and not SQL Server.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's nice that gives me the limitations that we were talking about. But then, yeah, it's for creating stuff, I am probably still going to use an Azure function, but for reading, getting it through the API is going to be awesome.
So just for fun, so why would you still write a custom bit of code for creating?
Just because I want to ensure. Well, I suppose for this particular functionality, it doesn't matter because nobody has any rights on my site except for me.
Yeah, exactly. Based on your SWA role, they can't do anything.
Yeah, so that one's probably fine. But if you're if you're doing anything for the multi-user, then I would probably do that in the function just because
that's not supported yet as well. That was that the security field security thing. Yeah, that was currently not supported. That would also make the reading thing a bit difficult because that's currently also not supported.
Yeah.
But that's something maybe beside the stream. And I guess maybe you can still there is already a Cosmos DB REST support in another Azure service. Maybe you know the name.
I don't know the name, but I do know that that's already available. Yeah.
So maybe that can help out. But of course, the cool thing is DAB, so we're gonna have to work with that.
It's I kind of the fact that this is all built into static web apps, because we're going to be using the static web apps version of DAB today, that makes it a little bit of a shame that you can't do the Cosmos DB REST API because it keeps it all contained. Maybe
what you could do for now is to just have we're already talking about Yagni and just doing stuff, right? We could just create a conferences draft or talks draft table and just put the stuff that's in there.
Yeah.
And then you have that separation in that way.
Yeah, that could work.
Maybe
copy it across when it goes to published.
Yeah, I suppose.
I'll deal with that in the future.
Exactly. It's a future you problem.
It's a future me problem. For now, it's just getting all of this. Anybody who comes to the site should be able to see everything in these tables.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I want to do. For
exactly. This. And all of that fancy stuff that we're talking about, like returning rows only based on roles, does work in DAB. Just to repeat, it does currently, apparently, is not supported for NoSQL yet, or not for Cosmos.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So how about we kind of get started with do we just want to get started with SWA immediately?
Yeah,
I think that's fine.
If we can just get started with this, it's I was kind of hoping for between 1 and 2 hours for this.
I think that should work.
Feel my energy, so if we can dive into it, and hopefully we can get this working before my chronic fatigue totally starts kicking my butt.
All right. May I share my screen just one more little time, just to summarize what we're going to do for the audience, because I have a exact little diagram for exactly what you're going to be showcasing, and if we've done that, then we can just dive into the code.
Yeah.
Awesome. So let me just go back to this slide. There we go. So basically, this is what we're talking about with static web apps and the DAB integration. So we can have an Azure Static Web App, which is currently already supported. And please correct me if I'm wrong, because you're the SWA expert, not me. But you can set it up so that anything that goes to /API can go to, for example, API management, app service, functions, or container apps. And then you could do, for example, custom code.
Yeah.
But that is not what we want, because we want dab. So we could currently say, well, dab runs in Docker, so we could host dab in an Azure Container App, but that means that we have to have another Azure Container App where we need to create that infrastructure as code, host it again. That kind of stuff is just really annoying.
Yeah.
So with static web apps, the really cool thing that they're also, what we're going to show you today, they're also working on making this work in app service, is that you can have a /data API URL. So when you go to /API, you go to this setup API that you set up in static web apps. But when you go to /data API, it will just immediately go to Data API Builder, your database, and back. And that is basically what is really interesting for your website. This /data API is all you need to suddenly get the data and render it on your pages.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's kind of that's still what I wanted to add. All right, if you want to share your screen, let's get some cool code going.
Yeah, so if I share my screen, and I was thinking maybe we can do a little bit of pair programming here, and if I drive, you navigate?
I even don't, we've already started pair programming, we crashed the car. What? Sorry, say again?
So for getting it working on my site, I was hoping that we could do some pair programming
Right,
here.
yeah, okay.
So I do have some stuff kind of already set up that we can talk through.
Right, so what we can do, I believe, is we could either say we're just going to remove any dab stuff that we have so far and just start adding it from the beginning, or just have the things that you have as a default. So maybe this is the SWA, right? The SWA project.
Yeah, this is my SWA config.
Right. So maybe what you can do just for now is can you maybe rename that SWA DB connections folder to like something behind it, whatever, or backup, whatever you prefer. So ODL. What is ODL?
It's supposed to be
old. I was like, what kind of 3-letter acronym is this? Okay. So basically, in a SWA project, you can enable Data API Builder by enabling it. What this will do is this will create a folder called SWA DB connections for you. Stacy already had this running, which means that is already kind of cheating because we want to show you how to begin with this. So we're going to just start over again. So what you need to do is you need to do in your CLI, all you need to do is do SWA DB init. And let me just get the command that you really need, because I have that somewhere here from yesterday's practice. SWA DB init. There we go.
Okay. Any dashes or anything, or just straight DB init?
No, there's space. Yeah, I'll put it in the chat actually, so you can kind of have a look.
Okay, so I'm just going to copy that and bring it across.
So basically what we're saying here is that we want to have static web apps and we want to integrate it with Data API Builder, which is the DB part. We're going to initialize it because we need that configuration file we've talked about. The type of database we want is Cosmos DB NoSQL. And in this case, you need to give another parameter, which is Cosmos DB NoSQL database. And this is going to be the database that you have in Cosmos DB. I'm not sure what that is. I think that might be Stacy Clouds.
That's Stacy Clouds, yeah.
Oh, perfect. Awesome. So now what you can do is you can press enter. And this is going to work really hard. You're going to get one interesting warning, which means that REST is currently not supported with Cosmos DB in Data API Builder. But like we talked about, there is a workaround for that if you need it by using the other service in Azure that does this. And
I do like the fact that it said it's not honored for. Nice.
It's really exactly. It's not honored. All right. So here's what we get. Maybe you want to go through with this with your audience because I already understand it.
Yeah. So we get, this is the database configuration.
Yes. Yep.
We have our data source at the top. We say Cosmos NoDB, the options for our database down here, and we have this connection string. And we're going to change that connection string to be, what is it $env?
Oh, that's no. It's like, because you don't want to store your connection string just in your Git repo. Please don't store secrets in repos. You want to just store it somewhere else. And this is like an @ symbol.
Is it @env?
@env, yes. And then there's like round. I know loads of English language. but I never remember the punctuation thing. Yes, does. Thank you.
Yeah. So that was Cosmos.
And I think it might still need. Yeah, it needs single quotes in the parentheses. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Awesome. Single quotes it needs in the inside.
Single quotes.
And you're still forgetting double quote on the end.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Awesome. So this is telling
this
it.
is an environment variable, which I have set up in a file.
There's a typo in there, but please continue.
There is indeed, isn't there? You're better at spotting typos than me. This is good. See, this is why when I write my book later on this year, I'm going to have editors to help me with this. I'm going to do my best to catch them all, but I'm not going to. So this is an environment variable which we're going to store in a file in a second, and I am not going to show you that file.
Exactly.
But when we go to deploy it, static web apps have configuration that you can set for them, and environment variables. So we're just going to set an environment variable called Cosmos connection string, which is already there because I need it for my API. And it's going to read the connection string from there, then allow us to connect to this database. The container, I find this really interesting. The container we set to null because we don't need it, because we're going to set that up in the entities below.
Yes, exactly.
This one confuses me a little bit. I don't know if it just allows you to limit it if you want to.
No, I tried setting it yesterday and then it didn't want to work.
Okay, so it's just there.
It's just there, and if you use it, you're wrong. So I also don't really understand why it's there.
Okay.
But yeah.
And then we have the runtimes that we have available to us. So the REST runtime is like say that isn't enabled because we're on a Cosmos DB. But we do have our GraphQL enabled.
Yes.
We have our cores. I'm guessing empty origins means no cores available.
Yeah, so we don't allow any cross-site requests. And that's great because we don't need it because this is hosted in the same instance as Swise.
But if I was deploying this in its own DAB outside of my site, I would need to put in here my site's URL in order to get it working.
Exactly.
Because software developers absolutely love dealing with cores.
It's amazing. It's wonderful. Every time I do it, I'm thankful to wake up and be a developer. And every time, like, I understand how this works. It's just easy. And then I don't know. It never works.
Yeah. It's one of those automagical things which, it always works until it doesn't. And then it's just not fun.
Exactly. Yeah.
Then we have the authentication that Sander was talking about earlier. So like say static web apps, because we are in a static web app environment here. So it's just going to take the static web apps. It's not actually easy auth, but it's kind of a subset of easy auth.
Oh, God. Okay.
It kind of is, but isn't, because why would you want to keep things simple?
Kind of complex auth. All right, understood.
And then we have the mode that we want to run in, which is currently set to production, and we are going to set that to, is it debugging?
You can set it to development. We just need to be mindful that when we're deploying to Azure, that we set it back to production. Or it's just ignored by Azure. I'm not really sure. But development allows you to have that GraphQL playground, some more insightful logging and error responses and stuff like that.
Yeah. So that gives us all of the stuff that we need to set up to get it going. And then we have our entities right now, which are empty, and we need to fill them.
One more thing. So one little thing that we forgot to talk about on line 9 is that when we're using SQL Server, or what I did in my demo before, is that you just pointed to a database and it worked. That doesn't work with Cosmos DB because it's NoSQL, but it doesn't understand the types. It doesn't know because it's NoSQL. Right. So we still need to supply it with a schema file, the GraphQL schema file, which we need to do ourselves. Which is currently this one, and it's nice and empty right now. Yes, and I've already created that myself. Hint, hint. I just asked ChatGPT to convert it. So I think I said that to you before, or I can find it for you again. You did indeed. So if I just open this is the schema that we need. Yes.
So we just have the two types. So we have my conference, and that has ID, string, location, year, start and end date, the URL, the main tag, and it has this link to talks, which is an array of talks.
Yes.
And then now talk model, again, it has the ID, which is pointing to the original talk, but it's not a full foreign key. It will allow me to go back to that original talk, but it won't get updates from there.
Okay.
The title, the abstract, which is coming in the future, because I hate abstracts. The main tag for the talk, and this main tag is how I'm partitioning my talks in my database.
Right, yeah.
Same as, why do I have a year and a start and end date? Because this is my partition.
Right, that makes sense.
The talk time, which is the time of day that I am talking at the conference. The talk length, how long is this talk going to be? And I appreciate that they're confusing column names because I had to think for 2 seconds of what on earth was I meaning when I wrote them. All of the tags for the talk. You know what? I don't know why that ID's in there, because that
I'm
is
pretty
the talk ID.
sure. That's a great question. That's a great question.
Sure that one's needed.
I do know that it needs to be nullable. At least talk ID or ID needs to be nullable, because otherwise it's going to complain that you have nullable IDs in your data set.
Yeah.
So, but I'm pretty sure either of them can be thrown away, but I'm pretty sure that your JSON file just contains both. Or it doesn't, and I'm wrong. Let me have a look.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go back and have a look at my data a second.
I got it open here.
I just have talk ID in Cosmos DB.
Right. You're right, yeah, so the ID can just be thrown away.
Okay, that's good.
It looks like it. Famous last words.
We'll find out in a second.
But talk ID needs to become nullable, so you need to remove the question, the exclamation mark at the end.
Remove the exclamation mark?
Yeah, because you need to remove it, because then it becomes nullable. If you look at your data source, then you can see that. Oh no, I'm dumb. I'm being dumb. No, you're right. All the talk IDs are filled. No, it definitely can be.
Oops.
That's just because based on my incorrect ID that I had before.
Right. Okay. Fine.
Yeah. No, that's all right. So this is currently technically. Well, we still need to set the environment variable. So maybe we want to make the file, and then you want to hide your screen and fill it.
Yeah. Let me just remove. I nearly removed you from the stream and not my screen.
Oh, thanks.
That would have been embarrassing. And we're back. So I now have this environment variable, which I am not going to open.
Okay, click on it for a second. No.
You're evil. I like it. That's going to allow us to connect to it. And then do I also need to set up the entities down here as well?
Yes.
Right.
So we can do that either via the CLI or via the configuration file. So normally you could simply say, let me just look up what I did. I'm pretty sure it's just dab add. Yes, so it's simply dab. It's actually funny that the line above already suggests it. So dab add, and in your case it's talk. Dab add talk, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Is it a capital? Is it not a capital?
Yeah, it is supposed to be capital. Okay, I'm pretty sure. But and then we need to give it a source. So this is going to be the entity that Data API Builder will be using. Right. But we also need to connect it to the source in Cosmos DB. So this is -- source is the next argument. And that is going to be the container. So that's talks with a small t. Yeah. Actually, I put it in quotes, but I'm not sure if it's necessary.
Okay.
We'll find out.
We'll find out in a second, yeah.
And next we need to set up the permissions. They might be, they might not be necessary, but let's do it anyway. Actually, I think it's a good idea to do it. So it's -- permissions.
And then for this, we can just set it so it's only read-only for now.
Exactly. So that is like a string, or like I think we might need quotes here. So double quotes, anonymous.
I cannot spell anonymous.
Na 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 na. Anonymous, and you want to do a colon in that string? Yes, that's correct.
Wow.
Awesome. So you want to do a colon and then read.
Okay.
So you could also do create, update, delete here and stuff like that. But we only want read, so anyone can only read.
Yeah.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and press enter. Could not add entity. Oh, that might. Where are we? Oh, that's because the configuration. That's might needs. How do you say that? I think I know what's happening. So it's currently looking for the default configuration file, which is called dab-config.json.
Yeah.
But yours is called differently. So we want to just press up again, and we want to say space dash dash. Just do dash dash help for now to can see what we're supposed to do here. It's always okay to ask for help. There you go, the bottom one. Dash dash config.
Okay.
So we can say dash dash config, and now we can point to your static web app.database.config.json. And yeah, that should be it. Is it not getting tab completion?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! So now if we open the configuration file again,
we have entities talks. Source is talks. GraphQL enabled. Anonymous read. Nice. And then we need to do the same then for
conference.
Conference in the database, I believe.
Let's have a little look. It's conferences in your database.
Of course it is.
But you can simply edit the JSON, or you can use dab update, which is already selling you in your terminal. Ooh. But I just prefer updating the JSON file by hand.
Yeah, I think I might do that one. So does that mean I need talks instead of talk? It does indeed. Conferences and... Oh, I got talks right.
Yeah, you got that one right.
Accidentally got it right.
And you got conference, right?
Conferences.
Yeah, but like on line 60, it's called correctly.
Yeah.
So it's talk and conference, which is mapped to talks and conferences.
Yeah, that's correct.
Right. I believe they recommend that you do singular form for the entity names. And then with the on line 67 and 68, we have the singular and plural forms, which are for GraphQL.
Yeah, which is nice because it just makes those for you.
Exactly, it just knows. Well, I think it just adds an S.
Yeah.
But not sure how advanced that is.
I want to try this with sheep and sheep.
Oh.
Sheep and goose and geese. I'm
Maybe
curious.
Just try it. It's got to make it sheeple.
Let's try a goose.
Oh, that's going to be difficult.
It's going to be gooses, isn't it?
It's going to be gooses. It's going to cook my gooses.
No! Oh my god!
Oh my god, that is amazing.
Okay. Last one, again, tangent here, but this is just...
Moose? No, moose it'll also... What will it do with sheep? The sheeps? Oh my god, it is amazing. I love how they spend time on that. Like, that is something that every time would probably be pushed back to the bottom of the backlog. And
yeah, absolutely.
It.
Oh, that is so cool. Okay, I guess I better get rid of this since it's not
exactly
needed. But that was a fantastic tangent. Thank you for indulging me there.
Person and people, probably would also work the same.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I would kind of want you to create a table called Goose now. Just
I'm just so shocked that it works.
yeah, I didn't expect that either. What a weird feature to have. I should put that in my slides.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, so I believe this is everything you need, except, of course, I think one thing that might have already been done for us is we didn't use DAB in it. We didn't tell DAB to initialize it for us. We told SWA to initialize it for us because there needs to be a connection between SWA and data API Builder, because it needs to understand that when SWA launches both locally and in the cloud, because this just works locally as well, that it needs to actually also start DAB.
Yeah.
So that is done in the SWA config.
Which I have down here.
Exactly. So we already added that before. I believe on my machine, I don't use those configure measurements like that. I just had a really default file, and I believe for me it already filled in the data API location, and then it just understands that.
I can believe that one. And I know for when you're deploying, I know, I'm 99% sure for when you're deploying, if you follow the opinionated folder structure,
right,
then it will pick it up automatically during the deploy.
Okay, that's cool.
Now, whether or not that works with the CLI or not, I don't know, but for the GitHub action, I'm reasonably sure it checks to see whether or not SWADB connections exists. And if it does, it sets up DAB, and if it doesn't, it ignores it.
Okay.
I might have to do some playing on this over the next couple of weeks, and I will do an update when I have done.
That sounds good.
This is going in my updated book, so I've got to do some playing with this anyway. So as soon as I know a bit more, I'll put something out there.
Let me know if I can help, by the way. I'd love to.
Yes, I will do. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
So how about we start it by simply saying SWA start? Maybe you need to do some other stuff, but that's what I usually did yesterday.
Yeah, it's because I do have all of this in here.
Right, like you have to start probably the debug client, right?
You know what? I can just do SWA start dot.
What would that do?
When you start a static web app from the command line,
right,
if you don't put anything in there, it will try and take the first entry in your configuration.
Okay.
Which will crash with mine because it doesn't exist, because I've not published anything locally.
Right, yeah.
You can also completely ignore that. And if you are running it locally, then you can do SWA start and then the address of your client.
Okay.
Yeah, like for Visual Studio, it used to be, until they changed it, everything was always defaulted to HTTPS 5000, HTTP 5001. So if you just put that in after the SWA start, then it will try and go to your application. And it will just assume that your APIs are running at 7071.
Okay.
If you put a dot in there, or anything which isn't a HTTP address, then it will try and run statically from that folder. So just by saying SWA start dot, it just assumes that the folder I'm in is able to be served, which obviously it's not, and will load that up as a static web app.
All right.
If we run this now, that should not be picking up my website. That's interesting, because I'm sure it's not running.
Is it maybe cached if you refresh the page?
Hey, there we go. Right, so no, I don't have an index file there, so it dies. It sounds stupid to say, but the fact that this broke, I'm happy with. So then we want data API.
Yeah, but this is because we're running it again. In my demo, I talked about you could go to /Swagger, you could go to /GraphQL, /OpenAPI, but that's because we're hosting DAB ourselves. In your case, you're hosting it via SWA, and it doesn't expose that playground.
No.
So in this case, you could go here, but it would probably throw an error, or there's nothing registered on the get there. In fact, it's even it's a weird error. Like connection refused means that maybe your SWA isn't running yet.
Oh, that's interesting. It died. Oh no, that's
Isn't this the old one? Because we did everything in the VS Code, the terminal.
Yeah. No, that still died.
I believe that's just because of the dot thing. Is the dot thing correct?
The dot thing is correct.
Isn't that going to start the static one that you didn't want to launch?
It would do, but it should still... See, it's still running. Because we're getting this Microsoft Azure 404, so that is a good page. But when we go to the data-API-GraphQL, it's trying to do something and then it's dying.
Right.
And it's killing the whole static web asset.
That's funny. Okay.
Fun.
But we've gotten this to work earlier, right?
We got this to work earlier by using the was it dab start?
Yeah, but that's going to be you're now currently in the. Oh, wait a second. Can you do an ls for me? You're also maybe in the wrong folder. Right.
Nope,
So
if you,
no, you're in the SWA DB connections folder. You're not. I think you need to go one more up.
You might be right there.
I was already expecting some more information about Data API Builder in the terminal there.
Nope.
This is a bit odd. Let me have a think. So you have the SWA CLI config. You have a Data API location.
Oh, is it not picking it up because I don't have a default configuration? Let me start my site. Okay, right, that starts everything up. And now let me do start debug client.
Look, there we go. I already saw lots of stuff about Data API Builder happening. So if you go up to the logs for a little bit more, then we can, there you go, so Microsoft Data API Builder, because it understands that it needs to do that because the Data API Builder path is filled, and it can find the configuration file to load.
So that makes more sense.
Yes, awesome.
So now if we open this up again, and where have you opened? Okay, so this is my site.
Maybe it's actually hosting. Maybe we can reach DAB here. We'll have to see. I wonder. There you go.
That's interesting.
You might want to remove that backslash at the end.
Hey, look at that!
Oh, now it works. Okay, that's cool. Didn't expect that.
Banana Pop.
Banana. It's a crazy name. Like someone woke up, went to the meeting that said, "I know what we're going to call this thing. It's going to be Banana Cake Pop," and everyone agreed.
Oh, this is cool. We actually have it working. And if I go to here and type query, then we have my builder available. Yeah,
you might think, oh, that's just the schema that we defined earlier, but it isn't. This is basically, this is not just the schema that we made earlier. This is, well, it's based on that, but we're getting loads of goodies out of the box, right? So we have 4 things here. So we have talks by PK, and we have conferences and conference by PK. So the by PK things are basically the get by ID things.
Yeah.
So you could, for example, even click on the conferences one, just check the second one, maybe to start with. And now it doesn't enable to get the items for you. So maybe you also want to click on items.
Do I need this end cursor and has next page?
That's just for pagination. I believe by default it returns 100 items, and after that you have the page. But you can just type items, and then you can either type everything or just click in the left one. Click in the left screen.
Oh, we have it now. Cool. So let's do the name and the talks.
Please work. Yes. Okay, awesome.
Nice.
Wonderful. So again, just to summarize where we're at here, we did SWA. You created your SWA project some time ago. You added this. We didn't even look at a front end yet, but what we did is we did set SWA DB in it, and it created a configuration file. We configured it to use our connection string to Cosmos DB in the cloud. We configured it with a GraphQL schema, and we set up the entities. And then we basically told, well, I think if you just start like that, that's all you need. And suddenly we're looking at this banana cake pop, really cool UI where you can try out and have loads of fun with GraphQL based on your database.
That's
pretty sweet.
Cool. And if you use this, can you see the network tab when you're... Hello. Okay, my Chrome's doing weird stuff, but...
That's okay.
Nice. You can even inspect the requests here.
I believe you can do it even better. I think you can even click on history here. I think there's a history icon in the left bar. You might need to create an account for that or whatever.
Yeah.
You can also download, I think this might be using Apollo client under the hood. I'm not sure. I think there's a GraphQL Chrome extension you can download for even easier access to this.
Oh, very cool.
But basically, the request it's executing is exactly what's there on your screen. That query.
Okay.
So one more thing, maybe let's also show off the conference by PK. Yeah. So if you want to change this query that you have right now to also include the conference ID.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Let's run this one. So now copy that ID.
I want one that has multiple talks.
Wonderful. So now let's just kind of go click below. I think you can have multiple queries in a query block. So maybe you just click on conference by PK and see what happens.
Okay. Yep.
And now you can open the parentheses after conference by PK, but before the closing brackets, like the open and close parentheses. I think it's the right word I'm looking for. Yes. And now you can just paste that string in there. Yeah, we still need to add the quotes, but. And now if we run this, expected a name token. Might need to be ID or just single quotes. I got it to work on my machine. We're just making a little typo here. It's just not. This is not a dab thing. This is being done thing. I think you might need to add. Let's have a look.
Should it be name equals?
Yeah.
ID equals?
ID equals, exactly. Yeah, I got that to work locally now. And it needs to be outside the string. So it needs to be like a named argument in C#, like a named parameter.
Right.
So change the equals to a colon, and then add the quotes back. There we go.
Yay!
So now we can get items by ID. And then there's, of course, but this shouldn't be a GraphQL stream. There's also loads of GraphQL where statements and filtering and ordering and pagination that you can do based on the arguments that are returned here.
Yeah.
But there's loads of cool stuff. And this is really nice because if you didn't have this playground, you'd have to do this in your editor and be painful. And here we just have this and it just works.
Okay,
awesome.
So I suppose the next thing to do would be to try and add it to the site.
Yes, exactly. We want our website, when you load that page, to execute a GraphQL query to /data_API/GraphQL.
Yeah. So if we come back in here, I'm going to have to stop it. So in my client, I have all of these services. And I have this conference service.
Right.
What I use this for is just to make sure that because my conferences aren't going to change regularly, my blog posts aren't going to change in the space of one visit, it just caches everything so I don't have constant API calls going when I don't need them.
Yeah.
So then what I would need to do is replace this bit.
Yeah, basically, if the GraphQL client that we're going to use is not already going to convert it, but if it's going to return JSON, then yes, that's basically all we need to replace.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because this is a bit that I played with this on the other end. I've like dabbled with it in the past. I've never played with using GraphQL back inside of
Right.
C#. So this is all new to me right now.
Right. So let's just go ahead. And why don't we start with opening the NuGet package manager and searching with GraphQL, and then the one with the most downloads, and we'll look up the docs.
This is good. I like. No,
and otherwise we have that little backup. You talked at the beginning of the stream about that URL list that you would add to the YouTube description. In there, I also have a video of some .NET developers from Microsoft using DAB with GraphQL clients, like we're going to be using now. So we could always use that as an example, but that video is linked in there if you're interested.
GraphQL not installed. So we have these. The one that they used was strawberry something, if I remember.
It was something with strawberry, and it had like really cool Blazor integration. So apparently there is GraphQL clients, which would probably do the job for us. But why don't we just have a quick look?
This one, strawberry. Ooh, which one do I need?
I'll just have a quick look at that video so I can prepare. But I guess, like we said, if we would replace that HTTP client injection with a GraphQL client injection, it would.
We can try that one first.
Yeah, that's maybe a good point. Let's first make it work, then make it pretty.
Yes. Nope, not Microsoft Graph.
It is third one.
Yeah, GraphQL.
I guess maybe just GraphQL clients? I'm not sure. One with the most downloads. Or do they have package dependencies? Does GraphQL have a dependency on clients? If you click on the top one?
I would...
It doesn't. Okay, let's maybe use GraphQL client then.
Yeah. What is that? Yeah.
Okay, I'll just have a quick Google for the docs as well on my side here.
Get some, just accept all of that. Listen to the nice thuckiness coming over your microphone again.
This will now be an ASMR stream.
You know what? At some point, when I get around to buying the new keyboard and changing the switches and stuff, you'll have to come back if you are up for it.
Oh, I'd love to.
Do a bit of a... I'll even clean my desk so that it doesn't look such a mess. Okay, so where's the README?
Right, so I've gotten it here. Do you want a link?
Yeah, thanks.
Maybe I'll just also post it in the comments, actually, so people at home can kind of...
Oh, that's a nice one, yeah.
There we go. I believe this now should post it to YouTube.
If you just put it in the comments, it should go everywhere.
Yeah, it currently says that it failed, so I'm going to try again.
There we go.
No, it works. There we go. Awesome. So it looks like let's make it really dirty. So if I look at that README, it just tells us to instantiate a GraphQL client in C#. I believe this is the right package. So I think if we want to do this neatly without the strawberry shake thing, and we just want to do it like this, we would probably put this in dependency injection as a singleton. That's just maybe not. Let's just create this in a constructor of that service. So it creates a new instance every time for now.
We can do it quick and dirty for now. I will probably, because I've got to set some stuff on the server too, I'll probably deploy this later. It also takes a few minutes to deploy.
Right.
If we can get it running locally, I think that is an awesome step.
Right. Maybe we have a system text JSON serializer. That'd be nice.
Yes.
No, I think it needs to be. I'll have a look. I think it would be called system text JSON serializer, like as one word,
System text JSON.
like without the dots.
Oh, right.
Maybe we still need to install a package for that.
What do you?
Yeah, you do. You need to install this package. There we go. The GraphQL client serializer system text
Right.
JSON.
Does that make sense? Yes, yes, yes. I accept everything. Come on,
Yeah.
give me some IntelliSense here. Is it just system text?
If you do control space now, there you go.
There we go.
Awesome.
Cool.
Okay, so this will, I think. I'm not sure. It might. I think it's not something like WebSockets or whatever, but we'll see. It's fine. This is going to be fine. Maybe we still need to dispose it, but we'll see. Okay. So in the README, maybe you want to open this on your browser, then people can kind of see along. It's already there. It is. Copilot's already set it for you. Wonderful.
Okay, well, we'll do this one first then, and then we'll go back to the README, shall we?
Yeah.
Oh my god!
You're welcome.
There's times
How does it even know?
Yeah, there's times when Copilot is awesome. There's times when it's not.
So it doesn't even have like the talk time, the talk length, all that stuff. Does it have that? Yeah. How does it
talk
know?
Time, talk length, tags, talk ID.
But this doesn't have access. This solution doesn't have the SWA CLI loaded, right?
No.
Oh, but you probably already have these models in your code somewhere, right? Like talk time. You might already have a class for it.
It's probably getting it from these models then. So,
Yeah, probably. But still really impressive. Really nice.
Yeah, so it's probably getting it from here.
Right, so we probably want to just deserialize that.
Yeah, which we have down here.
Yeah, so we just want conference.
But what should this be?
That's the return model, I believe, of the query we're sending, so that could be conference.
Okay.
Awesome. All right, and this will work immediately with no errors whatsoever.
Okay, so that's not coming back as a string. What's that coming back as?
It might need to be a conference array. We'll see.
That is a. So if we come down here and just say is. I'm guessing data.
What's that type? Yeah, so then we need to deserialize it as an array. Or as an array is fine, whatever you prefer.
So that then should mean we can do.
Conferences equals.
Oh yeah, of course, because I'm. This is my initiation. Conferences.
And I did spot some issues in that GraphQL query, I believe, because it wasn't using the items. So what we might want to do here is just go open that GraphQL playground again and just copy it from there.
Yeah, that is a plan. So where is that? I have so many windows open right now.
So maybe we just throw all of this away and then we just click on that thing again.
Just copy this query in.
I'm sure it wouldn't work. Or you mean the other way around?
I was going the other way around, but let's get rid of this one, so we get back to just the normal one.
Yeah, and then
I just want to get everything.
Yeah, I think end cursor and has next page you currently don't need.
Yeah, so we can get rid of those.
Perfect. And then you're still missing gear. You haven't enabled a year yet.
Yep. That's kind of important. Yeah, okay, so we can now just... You don't need the query at the front, right?
What does the Visual Studio say?
It says it's just a straight string.
Yeah, that works.
Let's tab this in a bit just so that it looks a bit neater. That's better. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm including this query, and if it doesn't work, we can get rid of it.
I'm pretty sure it won't need it, but yeah, we can try that. That's a good way to start. We'll see about your model deserialization as well, because of course there's like the data, the way it deserializes looks a little bit different.
What options do we have here?
Nah, it's more like how do you say that? If you go back to your browser, to your playground, like normally you would probably just get an array of items.
Right.
But if you look at your response model, currently it's probably data, conferences, items.
I'm
right?
hoping it deals with that itself.
That would be nice. Let's take a look. So currently we can just start and run this.
Let's run this one. Let's come back to our browser. And then we want localhost 4280. Yeah, well, we can just load this directly, can't we? Whoa! Okay. It doesn't quite like that. It
We'll
doesn't
make it like it.
fetching it.
But currently it's going to api.example.com/GraphQL. I understand that doesn't like it. That makes sense. Why isn't it working? That's just that's just /data API/GraphQL. We don't need an HTTPS. We just need /data API.
Yeah.
Because it's just hosted on the same domain. It's a little mistake I made yesterday when I deployed it to localhost 4280 /data API/GraphQL, and then when it was deployed on Azure, it didn't work anymore, which makes sense.
Okay, let's try this one again then.
Oh, this.
A lot.
Oh, right, because this is being executed. I'm still so new to Blazor, and I thought that this is actually running on the client. This is client code.
Yes, this is
That's
client code,
cool.
but it runs in the browser.
That's neat. All right, so what is its response? Now you can already see that it's going wrong in the payload. So we're sending query and then another query in it.
Yeah, so we can get rid of this query now.
Yes. Yeah, and I believe you might still need that thing, that little curly brace, and we might need. Do we still need to remove a curly brace or not really?
No, I didn't put any extra query braces in.
Okay, let's try again. Do we have hot reload in Blazor WASM-land?
We do have hot reload in Blazor WASM-land, and in theory it should work. And
okay, I understand. I've heard enough.
Okay.
So can you click on view source for me? Oh god, okay, don't click on view source. So yeah, that's I think it's can you maybe remove, or will that cause issue? Can you remove the @ symbol before the string? Just to get rid of all of those new lines.
Yeah, what we can do is, instead of doing @, can we... I don't know if that's going to make it any better or not.
Yeah. We'll see.
Did you like that? I clicked on the hot reload to see if it
Yeah,
worked.
that's good. Let's see if it works. Let's see if it does anything different. If you can, maybe you can click on fetch XHR. It makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah. No, you still got all of the RNs.
Yeah, that's something we can deal with. Let's take a look at the error. Because it's erroring out. It's saying it's blocked.
Yes. Oh, file. Why are you trying to go to a file?
That's funny. Maybe what you need to do is you need to make it colon // I think it might be colon // then it'll try to use the HTTP protocol. So colon // try that. Oh, and then it can't hot reload it. Yeah, you got a hot reload pop up.
Yeah, see, there's some things that it works, and there's some things that it just really struggles with.
That's funny, because we only added... Oh, I guess we changed the constructor, and it was already constructed. And then you need to hot reload.
Yeah, okay, I can see that. Grr. Come on.
But just to summarize what we're happening here. So we're just currently having issues with sending the query to DAB. Like DAB and SWA are running just fine and happily. It's just that we're doing it wrong. We keep doing it wrong. Invalid URI. The format of the URI could not be... Okay, so why don't we make it our lives a little bit easier by just changing the URI to localhost 4280?
Yeah. I'm wondering if there's a way to just pass a HTTP client into here. But...
Like under the hood, you mean? Isn't there like an extra argument, you mean?
Yeah.
Take a look at
because this HTTP
is already configured.
Goes to the right place.
So can you press Control Shift Space?
Control Shift Space.
And enter your password? No. I guess you've got that override. Okay, so normally in Visual Studio, you it will like it will show up the IntelliSense for the entire method.
Yes.
But
I don't know why it's not doing that for me, because it just likes being annoying.
Yeah, you can remove a comma and edit again, and then it will fix it. But for now, like we said, localhost, 4280. That should do the trick.
Yeah.
And just to confirm, SWA is running, right?
SWA is running. The nice one is, unless you change a SWA configuration, you never need to restart SWA.
Yeah.
So if you were to change the GraphQL configuration there, or if you change something inside of the SWA config JSON file, then you have to restart it. But for the rest, it should just be fine.
Okay, that's good to know.
Okay, why did you do weird stuff like that? Well, that's interesting. That's now just not running full stop.
Okay, you click on all instead of fetch HHR in your network tab.
Yep, I can get back to network.
Yeah, I think your server's just like broken. Maybe you just need to rebuild and restart it.
Yeah. Oh! Yeah, it wasn't even running. That's interesting. I said restart and it decided, nope, I'm not restarting. I'm just gonna...
There we go. Didn't it just work? Your GraphQL is returning a 200 okay. That seems like a deserialization error. Exactly. Perfect. Yes, so this is currently working. So if we click on GraphQL in your network tab, and then you can go to response. There we go.
So we do need to wrap it in a data object.
Maybe there's an option on the object that we can tell it to just ignore it. But for now, yeah, I suppose.
Yeah.
So maybe you can create like a conference. If you just create a class like at the bottom here or wherever you want to do it.
What was it called?
Yeah, conference data or something like that.
Data. So if we do data, and that data contains a list of conferences.
Yeah, that might work.
And then this should be data, and it shouldn't be
An array. Yeah, correct. That sounds good.
And this should be data dot conferences.
Right, and there's of course error handling that we still would need to think about here.
Yeah.
But that's for future, Stacy.
This is for I'm going to take it easy, which is roughly translated to I'm going to work on this tonight.
That's a little easy. All right, let's draw.
Let's drop a.
I think there's also you're doing a pretty. So maybe you know what you can do is if you were to just click on that GraphQL. That's not something that people don't really know that often. If you click on the GraphQL one,
yeah,
and then just copy the response, like the entire response.
Ah, yeah.
You can just paste as class.
Yeah, that works as well. So let's just drop that in here. Edit, paste special, paste JSON as classes.
So we're gonna get some stuff.
Oh, items!
Oh my god. Okay, yeah. Maybe just get item in there then, because then, or we just whatever you prefer. We could already just put items in it ourselves, and then we have prettier objects. Whatever you prefer.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We have our.
Yeah, if you put root object in there, it should work. For now. Like if you deserialize as root object. No, that one was necessary. You should not have removed that one.
Well, I think that one was necessary because it already adds a second one here.
Yeah, but a root object has data, and data... Oh no, wait, I'm confused.
I thought I deleted something.
Yeah, you deleted the property.
Oh.
And you should not have deleted the property.
And now I've done too much again.
Yeah, so maybe just keep control setting until you got back to where it was. And then... No, it's still broken. You have to keep control setting.
But this makes... Is it still broken?
Yeah, because you deleted the conferences property that you store your data in. Like, that's a class.
Yeah, but that's there.
No. Trust me, keep control setting. There, keep control setting. You're almost there. There, right. You deleted this, and you should not have deleted that.
Oh, right, yes. I should have removed this one.
Something like that, yes.
And this one should be... Oh, damn.
Yeah, because it's called... Ugh. Maybe if we remove all of this public class stuff and just put it outside of this class, because currently it's probably being conflicted with that.
We can cheat. I think we can cheat slightly.
All right.
So this then should be root object, and this should be results dot data dot conferences
but
items.
Okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. And then this is gonna be the wrong. So maybe you just want to change.
Oh, right.
Yeah, but that's what I meant originally.
So this one then should go to
conference.
Yeah.
The word conference doesn't mean anything to me anymore at this point.
You know you've been streaming too long when everything just kind of like merges together in your head.
Yeah.
Oh, you beep. Really? 9:51. That's not set to anything?
That's funny.
Well, you know what? Let's stick a breakpoint here, shall we?
For you, this is like a dab stream. For me, this is a Blazor stream. I think we might need to...
I know why this isn't working. This is a really interesting thing when you're doing Blazor WebAssembly.
Okay.
In order to debug, there has to be a tunnel between the browser and the IDE.
Yeah, that makes sense.
When you start debugging, it opens a browser.
It has to
I'm
be
not using
browser.
that browser.
I find that so annoying. I find that so annoying. And then when you close that browser, the process stops, and it makes me yell.
Yep, that's it. And even more than that, right now, that browser is giving me some issues because Google is screwing up. Basically, every time I try and start it, Google tries to do a whole thing on privacy and everything else.
Yeah. I'm going to have a quick look at the docs for GraphQL in the meantime.
Okie dokie. Right, so here is my debug browser. And if I go to conferences now, there we go. So I'm now inside. I can now debug because I'm running inside of the right browser.
Right. Yeah, maybe it's possible to just get it returned as a string, so then we can like deserialize it ourselves.
Yes. So we have... No, it's not got anything.
Yeah, so I think it's just the deserialization that might not be coming through correctly. Can you just try, just so we know for sure, can you try grabbing this query and executing it in the playground again?
This whole query?
Yes. Just so we know that that part's right.
Right. And now I have one extra tab open, so this makes it even easier to find out where I was. So we want that.
Did you paste? It looks the same, though that could just, be true. Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this query is correct. So there's just something going on with the deserialization. Can we have a look at the methods on the GraphQL clients to see if there's maybe just a get to string, and then we just deserialize it ourselves into a dynamic or an object or whatever?
So GraphQL client. What do we have available? I know what the problem is.
Tell me what the problem is.
The problem is we need to figure out what we can add in here. Because I think we need...
Like if you've removed the parentheses on the, if you do a backspace and then add it again, then you should get the pop-up. Yeah, you can configure the JSON serialization
so we need
options.
a new JSON. Where's the options?
Settings, JSON serializer. I guess it's not in the import list. No, that's the Newston soft version, I think.
Right.
So what we can do is just remove the new action and those other things. Yeah, perfect. We just need to add new to it. Wonderful.
And then inside of here, we need, I believe it's web.
Oh, that's cool. All right. Let's have a look. This doesn't support hot reload, but we're not debugging anyway, so that's okay.
I think what it is, I think when you do the JSON serializer defaults web, then it takes the camel case and turns it into Pascal case. If I've got those names right, because I always mix those up.
Pascal is the right one. Camel case of people are wrong. That's the way you need to remember it.
Conferences. But it's still not. Oh, this is so annoying.
It is a bit odd. So, okay, so why don't we have a look? Can you open Notepad and please don't stop debugging yet?
Okay.
Can you open your network tab and then open Notepad and then just get the raw response from Data API Builder into your Notepad? So then we can just kind of start typing it ourselves, because this spaceless.json thing is just costing us more effort than it's actually worth.
Yes. So I want to get the response.
Technically, yeah, that's okay. That's fine. You can get this one. All right, so let's create a public class just below the current class called, and let's go all the way to the top. Conference response or something like that, we can call it.
That works.
Now you also have public class instead of public.
It's not the worst mistake I've made for that.
You can also ask Copilot to just deserialize this into a class, but we can also do it ourselves. Actually, we already asked the machines. Now it's our turn. So this would have a property called data of type conference data, I suppose.
Yes, that'd be public.
Yeah, I'll type it on my side as well, actually.
Data. Conference items of data. Oh no. How to build this so it makes sense on the other side too. There's a customer. Can you type this out? I'm going to have another go at those JSON options.
That sounds good. Shall I share my screen as well, just in case you want to switch?
Yeah, that's good.
All right. Share.
Tell you what, I'm going to let you share if you're okay with that.
No, that sounds good. I still need a response, though. Can you send that in the chat?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Wonderful, thank you.
You're welcome.
So that's going to be a root object with a data. That's going to have conferences. And this is going to have, yeah, it might be the case that the GraphQL client is trying to be a little bit clever, but we need to dive into the documentation for that.
Yeah.
This seems a little bit cumbersome to have to do yourself. Seems like something the library would probably do for us.
Yeah.
There we go. I think this should be your setup.
Okay. I have an idea that the JSON...
I didn't add the class name to the final one. That's a bit dumb.
Right.
There we go. Now it is correct. Yeah. And just in case, I'll check the docs.
What I really don't get is why it's just not getting anything back.
What do you mean, anything back?
Why? I mean, we've used, at least for the first few steps, we've used their structure. So data should, at the very least, data should work.
Ah, right. The hero example is the same. No, theirs is not. There's this is hero. You're right. Operation name. I don't know. You can maybe ask the Copilot. They'll figure it out.
Why
Have you tried using my class structure?
No. Let me try pasting that in.
I think all of the other classes that you currently have, maybe just put this below the current class, so it's not an inner class. And then, yeah, that might work.
Config data. Okay, let me try that one and see what happens. Right, what I've done right now, I'm just going to put my screen back on again.
Yep.
I have just created a test variable for now, just so that I can put a breakpoint in and see what we get back using your data structure.
Okay.
Let's go back here. Let's do a quick watch. Nope. Still no. This is still empty.
What the hell? Why is this not working? Okay, I'm just going to continue asking Copilot then how to format the following with the C# GraphQL response as classes.
Like I said, I kind of wish that we could just see the raw response from this.
Yeah, I don't think you can. Well, I mean, we can. That's what you see in your browser in your response, in your network tab. That's the raw response.
I've just done something really stupid in the hope that it works. I'm just trying to send it to a string and hoping it doesn't deserialize anything. I know it's going to, but right now I'm just kind of...
You gave the type string?
Whoa. Wow, that doesn't even hit the breakpoint. Nope, you can't deserialize it as a string.
Okay, so why don't you try using this setup instead? Oh my god, this is so annoying. We're just there. It works.
Yes,
it works.
It works.
We're just debugging. We're this stupid library
Oh, no,
work.
I can't see the entire list. It gets cut off.
Oh, okay. Okay. Start typing. P-U. No.
I have an idea that my energy is not going to let me fix
That's
this.
okay.
Let me stop sharing my screen a second so that we can see each other.
Yeah.
I think that we've got a good deal of the way there. I mean, the groundwork, like I say, it works. It's now just a Blazor implementation that's like causing me to scream.
Yeah.
How about if we call it a day here?
Sure.
I am going to carry on punching this until it works.
That makes sense.
And if you would like to continue carry on punching it, I will add you as a contributor because my website's closed source. Because there's stuff in there that I don't think should be open. But I can make you a contributor if you want to carry on hitting it as well for your own.
I mean, you've given me read-only access to your data.
I gave you read-only access to the data, yes. So you could also.
So I can run Data API Builder myself and then just do this myself. I think that's easier because then you don't need to mess around with permissions.
Yep. Okay.
But I'd love to. Yeah, I'll just keep going. That's all good.
Yep. I'm going to do the same, and we'll see where we come up to. So I think number one, getting this up and running was just the easy part. That was awesome.
Yes, and that's normally that's the difficult part.
Yeah. So we managed to switch that around, and I am sure that this is just a case of I have never worked with GraphQL inside of Blazor before.
Yeah, and also just that library. I don't know, it seems like we're doing everything correctly, but it just doesn't want to deserialize it.
And it's not. And I'm going to be honest, I'm going to try running this as a through the HTTP client and see what it does. I don't know if you can just run it through the HTTP client. I'm sure I've done this with Postman before, and there's a way to just push.
Oh, Postman does have GraphQL support. That's what I know.
GraphQL.
Yeah, Postman has GraphQL.
Because it's still just a request.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have a look and see how I can get this working. I think I'm going to try and see if I can get it working as a standard HTTP request and see what comes out of it.
I see just the fifth constructor of the GraphQL HTTP client does allow you to insert an HTTP client under your own version.
Cool. Okay.
So that should work.
I would change that one then, and I will push that to the right one as well.
All right, cool. Now I'll just keep trying here on this side, and I'm sure we will get this to work.
We'll get this to work. Okay, then I guess the main one is just thanks a lot, because this has been absolutely and utterly infuriating, but a huge amount of fun at the same time, because that's what software development is.
Right.
It's the infuriation until it works, and then it's just suddenly awesome.
And then you forget about all the pain. No, you're right. Because this is like this should be the easy part. We're just doing a call to GraphQL, and then we get and that's the only thing we would have had to change. Like conferences equals GraphQL result, and that's basically it. Yeah.
This will be working by the end of the day. I'm going to work on that too. I'm curious what solution you come up with and whether or not we do completely
Oh,
different
that's
things.
probably a typo. We're probably both just making a typo, but I'll send it to you in a bit.
But I do want to thank you again for
Yeah,
coming and
thank you.
sharing your time today, for spending the last 3 hours with me for the setup for this and everything else, and doing the setup beforehand. Thank you to everybody who's dropped in from time to time and watched. This has been a great deal of fun to do, and yeah, sorry we couldn't get it working in the end, but sometimes that is just software development. And I also need to throw in a thank you there to Omniplan, my employer. We make financial advice software, just for giving me the 1080p streaming capability and
Ooh, yeah.
sponsoring me for that. It's I've been keeping an eye on both the Twitch and the YouTube streams, and it makes a world of difference
I can
for
believe
how
that.
readable the code is on the site. So
Oh, that's a really good point with code, especially. Yeah,
yeah.
that's a really good point.
So yeah, we have to thank them for sponsoring this stream as well. And
Awesome.
on that note, I wish you all a fantastic weekend. Weekend? It's Wednesday. A fantastic week.
It's almost weekend. It's almost Monday.
It's almost weekend. That's also software development. You fight it for a couple of hours and you wish it was weekend. And yeah, I'll catch you next time. Bye bye for now.
Bye bye. Thank you.